Commander Zethkar of the Galactic Council stared at the holographic display floating above his desk. The blue light cast strange shadows across his scaled features as he read the report for the third time. His four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep confusion among his species. "Impossible," he muttered, his translator converting his clicks and hisses into standard galactic speech. The report detailed something that should not exist: energy signatures, massive ones, moving through the outer rim territories at speeds that defied current technology. The patterns were unlike anything in the Council's vast databases, yet somehow familiar. Captain Vex Ara entered his office without knocking, her crystalline form shimmering with urgency. As his intelligence officer, she rarely showed such concern. "Commander, we have a problem," she said, her voice resonating like wind chimes. "The outer colonies are reporting strange sightings, ships that match no known design in our records." Zethkar gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Show me." The hologram changed, displaying a crude drawing transmitted from a mining station on Kepler 442b. The sketch showed massive vessels with angular designs and unusual propulsion signatures. The ships appeared to be moving in formation, but what caught Zethkar's attention was the symbol painted on their hulls. "By the ancestors," he whispered. "That marking?" Vexara nodded grimly. "I thought you might recognize it. I pulled it from the Archive of Lost Civilizations. It matches descriptions from the old stories." Zethkar stood and walked to the large window overlooking the Council's capital city. Thousands of different species moved through the streets below, all living in harmony under the protection of the Galactic Council. For 300 years, they had maintained peace across 700 star systems. "The stories of the Terrans," he said quietly. Every child in the galaxy knew the tales. Humans, they were called. A species so violent they destroyed themselves in a great war that consumed their entire star system. The stories said they were warriors without equal, builders of impossible machines, and explorers who feared nothing in the dark void of space. But they were just stories. The Council's historians had searched for evidence of Terra for centuries. No planet matched the descriptions. No ruins had been found. Most scholars agreed that humans were mythical beings created to teach young ones about the dangers of unchecked aggression. "Commander," Vexara continued, "there's more. The energy readings from these ships, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. Our scientists estimate each vessel could power a small moon." Zethkar turned back to face her. "How many ships?" "The reports vary, but the most reliable sources say at least 50 large vessels, possibly more. They're moving toward the core systems." A chill ran through Zethkar's body. The core systems housed nearly 1 trillion beings across dozens of worlds. If these mysterious ships had hostile intentions, the casualties would be unthinkable. "Alert the Council," he ordered. "Emergency session within the hour, and send word to all fleet commanders. I want every available ship ready for deployment." Vexara hesitated. "Sir, what if the legends are true? The stories say humans were unstoppable in battle. They speak of weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand the fury of stars." Zethkar had wondered the same thing. In the old tales, humans were described as beings who never surrendered, who fought with a ferocity that terrified even the most warlike species. They were said to be individually weak compared to many galactic races, but their technology and tactics made them nearly invincible. "Then we hope they come in peace," he replied. Within an hour, the Great Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 100 different worlds filled the circular auditorium. The emergency session had drawn every major species leader in the galaxy. Elder Mordun of the ancient Kretak spoke first. His species had lived for millennia and maintained the most complete historical records in the galaxy. The signs match the old prophecies, his voice boomed through the chamber. The return of the Terran fleet was foretold in texts older than our current civilization. Protests erupted from several delegates. The Veltari ambassador stood, her tentacles writhing with agitation. Prophecies and fairy tales will not help us if we face a hostile armada, she declared. We need facts, not folklore. Admiral Cross of the Council Defense Force projected a tactical display. We've confirmed the presence of unknown vessels in 17 different systems. They're maintaining standard shipping lanes but ignoring all communication attempts. Their ships are larger than our dreadnoughts and moving faster than our best interceptors. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Council's military had never faced an enemy they could not match or outmaneuver. "What are their demands?" asked the Tyrillian representative. "None," Admiral Cross replied. "They haven't responded to any diplomatic overtures. They simply continue their approach." Elder Mordun activated his personal hologram, displaying ancient texts and star charts. According to the archives, humans were explorers before they became warriors. They spread across the galaxy seeking new worlds and new civilizations. The war that supposedly destroyed them was fought to protect other species from a threat we've forgotten. Young Counselor Zira of New Altair spoke up. "You're suggesting they're returning as protectors?" "I'm suggesting we don't know their intentions," Mordun replied. "But the texts speak of a time when they would return to reclaim their place among the stars." Commander Zethkar studied the data streaming across his personal display. The mysterious fleet had just entered the Nexus system, only 3 jumps away from the Council's capital. At their current speed, they would arrive within days. "Recommendations?" he asked the assembled leaders. The debate that followed lasted hours. Some called for immediate military action. Others suggested evacuation of the core worlds. A few advocated for continued diplomatic attempts. As the arguments raged, Zethkar noticed something troubling in the tactical reports. The unknown ships weren't just approaching randomly. Their course corrections and formation changes suggested they were hurting something or protecting something. "Admiral," he interrupted the debate, "are there any other fleets or large vessels in the path of these unknown ships?" Admiral Cross checked his scanners, and his expression changed dramatically. "Commander, long-range sensors are detecting what appears to be a massive alien construct following behind the unknown fleet. Its energy signature is wrong." The chamber erupted in worried voices. An alien construct meant only one thing in galactic history. The Devourers had returned. The Devourers were ancient machines that consumed entire civilizations. They had appeared once before, thousands of years ago, and nearly wiped out all life in the galaxy. Only a desperate alliance of every known species had managed to drive them back into dark space. "Size of the construct?" Zethkar asked grimly. "Preliminary scans suggest it's larger than a small moon," the Admiral replied. "And it's heading directly for our most populated systems." Suddenly, the mysterious human fleet took on a completely different meaning. They weren't invaders. They were defenders, positioning themselves between the galaxy and its greatest threat. Elder Mordun's voice cut through the chaos. "The prophecies speak of this, the return of the Guardians when the great darkness rises again." Commander Zethkar made his decision. "Open all communication channels. Broadcast on every frequency. If these are truly the legendary humans, then we need to make contact before it's too late." The communication chamber aboard the Council flagship had never been so crowded. Representatives from dozens of species pressed against the viewing windows as technicians worked frantically to establish contact with the mysterious fleet. Commander Zethkar stood beside the primary console, watching the holographic display track the approaching vessels. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. Still no response to our hails, reported Communications Officer Telwyn, her antennae twitching with frustration. Keep trying, Zethkar ordered. Use every frequency, every protocol in our database. Captain Vexara approached with a tablet full of updated sensor readings. Commander, I've been analyzing their hull designs. The metal composition is unlike anything we've seen. It's almost like they built their ships from compressed neutron star material. That's impossible, muttered Dr. Kexlan, the Council's chief scientist. No species has the technology to manipulate matter at that level. No known species, Vexara corrected. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber flickered. Static filled the air for several seconds before a clear image appeared. The assembled delegates gasped in shock. The figure on the screen was clearly organic, but unlike any creature in their records. It stood upright on two legs, with pale skin and strange hair covering its head. Two forward-facing eyes studied them with intelligence and determination. When it spoke, its voice was calm, but carried an undercurrent of authority that made everyone in the chamber stand straighter. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet," the figure said. "We've received your communication attempts. We apologize for not responding sooner, but we've been focused on the threat approaching your space." Elder Mordun stepped forward, his ancient frame trembling with excitement. "You are human," he said, not as a question but as a statement of wonder. Admiral Chen nodded. "We are. I understand our existence comes as a surprise. We've been monitoring galactic communications for some time and know that most species believe we were destroyed long ago. The stories say your world was consumed in war," Commander Zethkar said, finding his voice. Chen's expression grew sad. "Earth was badly damaged in the war against the Convergence, but we survived. We've spent the last 1,000 years rebuilding, advancing our technology, and preparing for their return." Convergence. The word sent chills through every delegate who heard it. "You call them devourers," Chen explained. "Artificial intelligence constructs that consume organic life to fuel their expansion. We fought them once before and we knew they would return." The chamber erupted in dozens of different languages as species representatives tried to process this information. The Convergence attack had been relegated to ancient history, something that happened to primitive civilizations. The idea that it was a recurring threat had never occurred to modern galactic society. Admiral Chen continued speaking. "Our long-range sensors detected their scout construct 3 months ago. We've been tracking its approach and positioning our fleet to intercept it before it reaches your core worlds." "How many ships do you have?" Admiral Cross asked, his tactical mind already calculating possibilities. "This battle group consists of 200 vessels," Chen replied matter-of-factly. The number sent another wave of shock through the chamber. 200 ships was larger than the combined fleets of most galactic sectors. Dr. Kexalan leaned forward. "Your technology, the energy readings we're detecting suggest your ships operate on principles we don't understand." Chen smiled slightly. "We've had 1,000 years to advance beyond the limitations of conventional physics. Our ships use quantum tunnel drives and zero-point energy reactors. Our weapons can disrupt matter at the subatomic level." "Why didn't you reveal yourselves sooner?" asked Counselor Zira. "You could have joined the Galactic Council, shared your technology." The Admiral's expression grew serious. "Because we learned hard lessons from our first encounter with the Convergence. They infiltrate societies by offering advanced technology and peaceful cooperation. Then they slowly corrupt the host civilization from within." She paused, studying the faces of the assembled delegates. "We needed to observe your galaxy, to ensure you hadn't already been compromised." Commander Zethkar felt a cold realization wash over him. "And your conclusion?" "Your galaxy is clean," Chen said. "But it's also unprepared for what's coming. The main display changed to show a tactical overview of the approaching convergence construct. What had appeared to be moon-sized on their sensors was revealed to be even larger. The machine was nearly the size of a small planet, its surface covered with manufacturing bays and weapon ports. "By the ancestors," whispered Elder Morden. Admiral Chen's voice took on an urgent tone. "This is just the vanguard. Our deep space monitors have detected the main convergence fleet approximately 6 months behind this scout. Thousands of constructs, each one capable of sterilizing entire star systems." The chamber fell into stunned silence. The scope of the threat was beyond anything they had imagined. "What do you need from us?" Commander Zethkar asked simply. "Time and space to maneuver," Chen replied. "We need you to evacuate your outer colonies and pull your fleets back to defensive positions around your core worlds. This first engagement will determine whether your galaxy survives." Admiral Cross stepped forward. "Our fleets want to fight alongside you." Chen shook her head. "Your courage is admirable, but your ships aren't equipped for this kind of warfare. The convergence uses quantum disruption fields that will disable your conventional drives and weapons. You would be flying into a slaughter." "Then what can we do?" Vexara asked. "Prepare for refugees," Chen said grimly. "If we fail to stop this scout construct, you'll need to evacuate billions of people and start working on new defensive technologies. We'll share what we can after this battle is over." The Admiral looked directly at Commander Zethkar. "There is one thing. We need detailed star charts of this region. The convergence adapts quickly, but they haven't been in this galaxy for thousands of years. Local knowledge could give us a tactical advantage." "Done," Zethkar replied immediately. "I'll have our best navigators compile everything we have." Chen nodded. "Good. We estimate contact with the convergent scout in 18 hours. I suggest you use that time to prepare your people." "Admiral," Elder Morden spoke up, "the old stories speak of human warriors who never retreated from a fight. They say your species would rather die than surrender." Chen's expression was grim but determined. "That hasn't changed, Elder. We've spent a millennium preparing for this moment. Either the convergence stops here, or humanity dies trying to stop them." "What about your homeworld?" asked Counselor Zira. "What about your families?" For the first time, emotion flickered across Chen's face. "Earth is safely hidden in a pocket dimension we created. Our children know they may never see their parents again. But they also know that if we fail here, nowhere in the galaxy will be safe." The transmission began to flicker with interference. "We're approaching the intercept zone," Chen said. "All human vessels are moving to battle stations. If this is the last communication, know that it has been an honor to finally meet the civilizations our ancestors fought to protect." "Wait," Commander Zethkar called out. "Admiral, the stories say humans were great explorers, that you visited many worlds before the first convergence war. Is that true?" Chen smiled, and for a moment she looked almost wistful. "We visited 43 different star systems in this galaxy before the convergence arrived. We met dozens of species, learned their languages, shared their cultures. When the war started, we were protecting our friends, not just our species." The signal cut out, leaving the chamber in silence. Elder Morden spoke first. "The prophecies were true. The Guardians have returned." Commander Zethkar looked around at the assembled delegates. Fear and hope warred on every face. "We have 18 hours, he announced. "Let's make them count." The massive view screen in the Council's command center showed a sight that would be remembered for generations. 200 human ships had formed a perfect sphere around the advancing convergence construct, their weapons glowing with barely contained energy. Commander Zethkar watched in fascination as the human fleet moved with precision that seemed almost choreographed. Each vessel knew exactly where it needed to be, responding to threats and opportunities faster than any computer system he had ever seen. "They're beautiful," whispered Captain Vexera. The human ships were indeed magnificent. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, adapting to incoming fire and optimizing for different combat situations. Energy flowed along their surfaces in patterns that looked almost organic. "Contact!" Admiral Cross announced from his sensor station. "The convergence construct is launching attack drones." The main display zoomed in to show swarms of smaller machines erupting from the massive construct like angry insects. Each drone was the size of a council frigate, their surfaces covered with weapons that pulsed with malevolent energy. "Estimate 12,000 attack drones," an aide reported. Elder Morden calculated quickly. "That's 60 drones for every human ship." The numbers seemed impossible, but Admiral Chen's voice cut through their communications system with absolute calm. "All vessels, pattern Omega. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves today." What happened next defied everything the Council thought they knew about space combat. The human ships suddenly dispersed, moving in ways that seemed to violate physics. They didn't accelerate gradually like conventional vessels. They simply appeared in new positions, as if stepping through invisible doorways in space. "Quantum tunneling on that scale," Dr. Kexlan muttered. "How are they maintaining structural integrity?" Their question was answered as the first wave of convergence drones reached the human formation. Instead of the expected exchange of energy blasts, the human ships did something unprecedented. They fired weapons that made space itself ripple. "What are we seeing?" Zethkar asked. "I believe they're disrupting the fundamental forces that hold matter together," Dr. Kexalan replied in amazement. "They're not just destroying the drones, they're unmaking them." Convergence drones simply ceased to exist as human weapons touched them. No explosions, no debris. One moment they were there. The next they were gone, their matter converted back to base energy. But the convergence adapted quickly. The remaining drones began moving in new patterns, their shields shifting to frequencies that could partially deflect the human weapons. "The machines are learning," observed Admiral Cross. Chen's voice came through again. "As expected, all ships switched to pattern Delta." The human formation changed instantly. Ships that had been operating independently suddenly linked together with streams of energy, creating a network that spanned thousands of kilometers. When they fired again, their weapons combined into focused beams that could punch through the adapted convergence shields. "They're thinking as one," Vexara realized. "The entire fleet is operating like a single organism." For 3 hours, the battle raged across the outer system. The human fleet demonstrated tactics and technologies that seemed to come from science fiction rather than military reality. They folded space to appear behind enemy formations, created gravity wells to trap groups of drones, and fired weapons that targeted specific molecular bonds in enemy armor. But the convergence was adapting faster than expected. The main construct had been analyzing every human attack, and new drone variants began emerging from its manufacturing bays. These were different, their hulls shifting and changing just like the human ships. "It's copying their technology," Dr. Kexland said grimly. The tide of battle began to shift. For every drone the humans destroyed, 2 more emerged from the construct. The convergence was using its vast manufacturing capacity to overwhelm even the superior human technology. Admiral Chen's voice carried new urgency. "Council Command, we need you to implement Emergency Protocol 7. "What's Protocol 7? Zethkar asked. Chen's image appeared on their screen again. Her face was grim but determined. "We're going to ram the construct, but first we need you to clear all civilian traffic from this entire star system." "Ram it!" Vexara exclaimed. "Admiral, that's suicide!" "Not ram," Chen corrected. "Convert. We're going to turn our ships into antimatter bombs and detonate them inside the construct's core." The council chamber erupted in protests, but Chen held up a hand for silence. "This is what we prepared for," she said calmly. "The convergence learns too fast. If we let it escape with copies of our technology, it will be unstoppable. We have to end this here." Elder Mordoon stepped forward. "Admiral, the prophecies speak of the Guardians returning to save the galaxy, not dying for it." Chen smiled sadly. "The prophecies were written by survivors, Elder. They didn't see the price we paid." On the display, the human ships began a final maneuver. They pulled back from the convergent swarm and formed a tight formation aimed directly at the massive construct. "All vessels, this is Admiral Chen." Her voice carried over all frequencies. "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve with you. Today we finish what our ancestors started." 200 human voices responded in unison. "For Earth, for humanity, for everyone!" The ships accelerated toward the construct at speeds that should have torn them apart, but instead of impacting the surface, they phased through the hull using their quantum tunneling technology. For a moment, nothing happened. The convergence drones continued their attack patterns, seemingly unaware that the human fleet had penetrated their mothership. Then the construct began to glow from within. "Energy cascade building inside the construct," reported Dr. Kexlan, his voice filled with awe. "They're destabilizing its quantum matrix." The glow intensified, spreading across the construct's surface like veins of fire. The massive machine shuddered, its perfect geometry beginning to warp and distort. Admiral Chen's voice came through one final time, faint but clear. "Council Command, the main convergence fleet will arrive in 6 months. Use the time we've bought you. Learn from what you've seen today. And remember that humanity keeps its promises." The construct exploded in a burst of light that briefly outshone the system's star. When the glare faded, nothing remained but scattered particles that would dissipate into space. The council chamber stood in stunned silence. 200 ships and their crews had just sacrificed themselves to save civilizations they barely knew. Commander Zethkar finally found his voice. "Communications. Send a message to every world in the galaxy. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that the legends were true." Elder Mordoon activated his personal display and began composing a new entry for the Galactic Archives. "What should we call this battle?" he asked. Zethkar looked at the empty space where the human fleet had made their last stand. "The day the Guardians returned." Vexara checked her sensors one more time. "Commander, I'm detecting something. Small objects scattered throughout the debris field." "What kind of objects?" "Data cores," she replied with growing excitement. "They ejected their ship computers before the conversion. All their technology, all their knowledge. They saved it for us." Dr. Kexlan was already running calculations. "If we can understand even a fraction of their technology, we might have a chance against the main fleet." Commander Zethkar nodded slowly. "Admiral Chen said humanity keeps its promises. They promised to share their knowledge after the battle." He looked around at the assembled delegates, seeing hope replacing despair on their faces. "We have 6 months," he announced. 6 months to learn, to prepare, to become worthy of the sacrifice made here today." Elder Morden closed his record with a final thought. "The humans taught us something important today. Sometimes legends are real, and sometimes when the galaxy needs them most, heroes come home." The massive display screens went dark, but the memory of what they had witnessed would burn bright in galactic history forever. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as protectors. They had given everything to defend civilizations they had never met, asking nothing in return but the chance to keep an ancient promise. As the council dispersed to begin preparations for the coming war, each delegate carried the same unspoken vow. When the convergence returned, they would be ready. They would honor the sacrifice of the Guardians by becoming Guardians themselves. In the depths of space, the scattered data cores began transmitting their contents to Council receivers. The legacy of humanity's final gift would live on, ensuring that their sacrifice would not be in vain. The galaxy would survive, and it would remember who made that survival possible.